Not Uncle Steve Harvey being exposed for trifling. It turns out that Steve Harvey is not exactly the nice guy that we thought he was, but we've been knew this because Katt Williams exposed him for being an Avengers-level supervillain. According to Katt, Steve has a very bad habit of stealing jokes from other comedians, especially lesser-known comedians, and then trying to pass off the jokes as his. Katt also spilled some crazy tea about how Steve tried to undercut the late Bernie Mac and steal a movie role from him. And get this time Katt isn't the only one spilling the tea because Ed Lover is also backing him up. And baby, if you think that Katt's revelations were spicy, just wait until you hear what Ed has to say about Steve Harvey, because it is just sinister. Another day, another slay for Katt Williams, and this time, one of his wildest and craziest revelations just got proven to be correct. I'm talking about his claims of how Steve Harvey is one of the biggest snakes in the industry, and how Steve has messed up a lot of careers in the industry to get where he is today. Yeah, I'm talking about Katt's wild interview on Club Shay Shay and how he dragged Steve Harvey for filth. Now, y'all might think that Katt came for Steve unprovoked during the interview, or that he was being a hater, but that's not true because Katt and Steve have had beef since the 90s and early 2000s. At first, it started because Katt didn't like Steve's bossy nature, but as time went on, Katt started to see another side of Steve that made the beef worse because he accused Steve of allegedly stealing jokes from other comedians and then passing off the jokes as his. Not only that, but Katt also alleged that Steve often pulled sneaky moves by going behind other rappers' backs to try to steal movie roles from them. Steve eventually responded to Katt's shade a couple of years ago when he accused Katt of trying to use his name as a stepping stone. Y'all know how they say that there's no such thing as bad publicity? Well, Steve claimed that Katt was trying to use a made-up beef between the both of them to promote a show, and Steve was not down for that.
It got nothing to do with me. So this here little beef thing that everybody wanna start, cause you wanna make a name for yourself. That's cool, do you. You ain't gonna do it right here though. You ain't gonna build no reputation on Steve Harvey.
Steve then dismissed Katt, calling him disrespectful, saying that he, Steve, was the original king of comedy and he wouldn't stoop to Katt's level.
I am the original kings of comedy. And I can go with that right there. Now, until you done sold them kind of tickets, moved them numbers, and you done been on the stage with some more gorillas. See, it's cool when you've been the only gorilla on stage, but I've been on stage with more gorillas. When you've been the only giant on the stage, and you got to share a stage with another giant, there should be a sense of humility about that. There should be a sense of respect. And right now, it just ain't no...
In his interview with Shannon Sharp, Katt revealed that Steve used to attend his shows, not to show support, but to steal his joke. He went on to claim that Steve would steal the jokes, tweak them a little, wait a couple of months, and then pass them off as his own jokes.
The same Steve that went to go watch Mark Curry do his whole sitcom and then stole everything Mark Curry had. Now Steve got a sitcom where he the principal, and he wear a suit, and then he gets this high top fade, making all black men think he got the best lineup in the business, and it's a man unit. Then you ask it, why you not a movie star? I didn't want to be a movie star. This the same bro that hated on Bernie with this same thing. I didn't want to be a movie star. No, you couldn't be a movie star. There are 30,000 new scripts in Hollywood every year. Not one of them asks for a country bumpkin black dude that can't talk good baby and look like Mr. Potato Head. There ain't none.
But if you think that's bad, well, it's about to get even worse because Katt also claimed that not only did Steve steal his jokes, but he also stole his life story. If you've been following Steve for a while, then you probably know all about this story from Grass to Grace, where he talks about being dirt poor and all that stuff. While that wasn't technically a lie, Katt claimed that Steve stretched the truth a lot when he claimed that he was broke, homeless, and had to live in his car because that never happened. While Steve wasn't rolling in the money at that time, he wasn't that broke to the point where he had to live in his car. Even worse, he claimed that he was the one who had to live in a car and sleep in parking lots, and that Steve stole his story.
Like Steve Harvey telling people he used to be homeless. That's my story. That's not his story. Steve Harvey wasn't never homeless. When Mark Curry was touring with him 25 years ago, he was making $3,000 a show in cash and doing 5 shows a week. They just tell the stories. Thanks to my wife, I'm where I am. You said that about the first wife. You forget that? You told us it was her, then you went and married somebody else that think like a man. Like, what are you talking about? They think they can rewrite history.
He also revealed that at the time when Steve claimed to be homeless, he was making up to $3,000 per show during his tour with Mark Curry back in the day. Steve Harvey went on these shows 5 times a week, and I'm just gonna let y'all do the math here.
These are a lot. This is like Steve Harvey telling people he used to be homeless. That's my story. That's not his story. Steve Harvey wasn't never homeless. When Mark Curry was touring with him 25 years ago, he was making $3,000 a show in cash and doing 5 shows a week. They just tell the stories. Thanks to my wife, I'm where I am. You said that about the first wife. You forget that? You told us it was her, then you went and married somebody else that think like a man. Like, what?
But that wasn't all, because Katt also talked about how Steve did Bernie Mac dirty before Bernie passed away. In the interview, Katt talked about how disappointed he was with the way the industry treated Bernie when he was alive, and he made it clear that he would not allow himself to be treated that way. He also insisted that Steve owed Bernie some appreciation, since Steve only had the opportunity to shine after Bernie passed away.
Finally did it because you had no other choice. And now that he gone, you gonna act like he wanted to be a movie star. You stop it. You stop it. That man was funnier than all of y'all, and y'all thought y'all had one over on him. You thought he was black and ugly, and you were good looking, and he couldn't make it because you did. And that ain't the way comedy works. The king is the funniest. Period. Every time. And that's why no audience member was ever swayed.
Katt had many more things to say about Bernie Mac and Steve Harvey that left us all shook, because we always assumed that Bernie and Steve were cool before Bernie passed away. For those who didn't know, there were 4 OG comedians back in the day, and they were Cedric the Entertainer, Steve Harvey, D.L. Hughley, and the late Bernie Mac. But Katt revealed that there was a lot of shadiness between those 4 than we knew. And it wasn't all love and sunshine like we all assumed, because there was a lot of tension between those 4. Most of the time, the tension revolved around Steve Harvey and Bernie Mac because they had their own issues. According to Katt, Steve and Bernie had a lot of tension and rivalry going on. And even though they managed to get their acts together and do a joint tour, it didn't make things any easier between them, because they fell out with each other not long after the tour ended. The beef between Bernie and Steve got more serious when Bernie accused Steve of stealing his joke, which is the same thing that Katt is still accusing Steve of. Mac accused Steve of stealing his ideas and materials. It didn't stop at that. Mac also said in an interview with GQ that Steve had done worse. He claimed that Steve tried to undercut him and steal a movie role from him for the movie Oceans-11. He spoke about this in an interview with GQ, and according to reports, the magazine noted several years ago that someone allegedly representing Harvey supposedly called Oceans-11 director Steven Soderbergh's office and asked him to reconsider the casting of Mac. The caller argued that Harvey was more popular. Man, Bernie says, I heard about that. I was told about it. You know these people. Are you surprised? Tell me, are you really surprised? It's always about him. Yeah, that was nasty AF, and Katt addressed this on Club Shay Shay.
To tell you another story where he got so big and it was Bernie and them's fault because they wanted to be movie stars. What? You called Ocean-11 to get that nigga's part. What do you mean you didn't want to be a movie star? So on the behalf of Bernie, I would have to say what I have to say.
Have you ever been
Back in the day, Steve addressed these allegations where he denied that he tried to undercut Bernie, and he accused Bernie of lying. He said, I was upset at first because it just wasn't true. Me and Bernie had a lot of good times together, and then this article in GQ came out and put all this vicious stuff in there. Bernie said he never said it. I had to take him at his word for it. The interesting part about this is that Steve didn't address the issue when Bernie was still alive to dispute his claim. Instead, he waited years until Bernie finally passed away to address the situation, which is low-key sus. Like I said, Bernie passed a long time ago, so he isn't here to confirm or deny these allegations. But his daughter, Janice McCullough, addressed the situation. She posted a video on Instagram where she showed support for Katt, saying, I keep getting asked my take on Katt Williams' Club Shay Shay interview, and all I can say is that he has my utmost respect and appreciation for showing my dad so much love. Thank you, sir. Child, Janice ain't even need to say much, because it was clear that she believed that Katt was telling the truth about Steve trying to undercut her father, even though Steve has always insisted that he and Bernie were BFFs before he passed. Janice isn't the only person who believes that Katt is telling the truth, because Ed Lover has also confirmed confirmed the things that Katt said. Ed Lover, who was one of Bernie's closest friends till his death, claimed that Katt was saying nothing but the truth. According to Ed, Bernie informed him about some of the shady stuff Steve had done against him, and that was why Bernie could never fully trust Steve.
I know you and Bernie Mac were close, man.
My guy.
Yeah. That's
he was
deep.
he was in Who's the Man with us.
Yeah. Who's the Man. And this is before he became who he ultimately
But he never changed.
Mm.
After the Kings of Comedy, Bernie never changed, bro.
Wow.
Bernie didn't let Hollywood or success or anything go to his head. He was always the Mac man.
I heard he still lived in Chicago.
Yeah, bro. Bernie he's an original, man.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of cats scared to go after him on the stage.
Yeah, massive. I mean, I know he kind of alluded, or I've heard you kind of allude to what happened between him and Steve.
Well, that's what all I can say is what Bernie told me.
Mm-hmm.
And he was upset with Steve because he said Steve tried to get him taken off for the Oceans movie he did.
Oceans 11?
Yeah, and tried to vie for his part after he already got hired.
Wow.
And Bernie never lied to me. That's all I'm going to say.
Wow.
He was my friend. I loved him, man. I love him.
That's just messed up on so many levels, and according to Katt, it low-key explains why Steve stopped doing comedy shows, because he realized that people were on to him, and he could no longer get away with undercutting other celebs like before. Fans said, listen, the one thing Katt gonna do is tell the truth, regardless. So where are them naysayers that were saying Katt was lying? I'll wait, and I don't think Katt lies about anything. Woo! Uncle Steve do be trifling, but I want to know what y'all's thoughts are about this, and then check out this next video.